in general, the world still thinks you say you're a mind being. Most people identify with the brain. But as I've reminded you, the brain and the mind are not the same thing. One of the men who was probably the leading neurosurgeon in the world and is considered sort of the dean of it, a fellow named Wilbur Penfield, who was born in the United States but went to Canada and is now considered one, in quotes, one of the greatest Canadians who ever lived because of his work with the brain. And in his writings, he clearly says that he was able to physically affirm the fact that the brain is not the mind. There are two separate things. He said we can tweak parts of the brain and make it remember things or respond in certain ways. But he said we can't make it think. We can't make it make decisions. We can't do any of those things. And anyway, he affirms what I'm affirming for us. We're mind beings. And as mind beings, it is important for us to understand, well, how does the mind work? Last week I told you, everything else in your house, you probably don't have it there long unless you understand how it works, or you know where you can get a hold of somebody who knows how it works. Because if you don't know and they don't know, you're in trouble eventually because it stops working. So it's in this simple thought that we're trying to understand, how does our mind work? And metaphysically, we have been quickened and enlightened to the realization that the mind has 12 faculties, 12 capacities to respond to the life experience, to being. And as I said in the substance of our Sunday talks, I can't support that as I could by taking you back into the Bible and say how we were given clear spiritual insights as to this reality. But as I have worked with the concept, I find it incredibly true. Every one of us has 12 possible movements of mind that you can make at any moment. And then most times you're making them all the time, whether you're aware of it or not. I like to say that I call them freedoms in my book because that's the way my friend Bucky Fuller talked about the tetrahedron. And he said the tetrahedron has 6 ways that it can move. He called them freedoms of movement of that basic tetrahedron, which he said is the basic building block of the universe. And he said there are 6 ways, but he said actually there are 12 ways because each of the vectors can move one of 2 ways. And so that's when all my buttons went on and said, wow, the basic element of the universe, building structure of the whole universe, is comparable to what we as metaphysicians had discovered. We believe God was telling us about the mind. The mind has, anyway, 6 dyads, which are 6 pairs. 6 pairs, which makes 12 possible movements. Just like as you're listening to me now, whether you know it or not, all those faculties are working and responding to the things that I'm saying to you. We've talked about 6 of those faculties so far. We've talked about life, renunciation, strength, order, love, and wisdom.